Hey guys, we're back in the garage working on Liam. Hopefully we'll get him up and running today. We still don't have any of the body stuff, but we did get an oil pan welded it when we were over at PTS Fab. Stock L33 pan, it's got the really deep sump on it. Part of the reason why it actually hit the ground. But we're gonna swap out the pan so that we can fill it up with oil and see if the motor is still healthy. If you guys remember the crash video, when it came down really hard from the wheelie, it cracked the pan and all the oil started coming out. So what we were worried about is that at some point during the spinning and me having to get back in the throttle, that it ran out of oil pressure, ran too low on oil, lost oil pressure, and hurt the motor. Now, I don't think so because I actually have a safety in the ECU that won't allow me, it'll cut ignition if oil pressure gets below a certain amount. So that never happened, so I'm assuming we had enough oil pressure. So probably, you know, barely had enough oil level in there when I was still in the throttle. And yeah, I mean, the engine was still running when we came to a stop. So I think we're gonna be okay here, but we're gonna go ahead and swap the pan out and make sure. So fingers crossed. All right, so we got the old pan off here, and I mean, you can see the crack. So I mean, it's hard to see in this light, but technically the crack over here goes all the way up to the top, but you can't really see any light through it. But the majority of the oil was coming out of that bottom there. You can see the light coming out of there. So a couple of big cracks up here, but then there's a little chunk, decent sized chunk missing from the bottom there. So I think with how small this crack is, I mean, that's probably the only reason why we didn't hurt the motor, because it did actually take a long time for all of the oil to drain out of that. I mean, even after we were taking a look at the car and all the way back to the pits, we were leaking oil, which, by the way, everybody that was there that day, I apologize again about the cleanup that ended up happening. But yeah, so I think during the whole ordeal of hitting the wall and spinning and everything, and when I had to get back in the throttle, I think this thing still had plenty of oil in it, and so the motor should be fine. I'm literally just gonna go and get that other one. I gotta drill these rivets out for this gasket and slap it on the other one because the other gasket is a little bit messed up. So I'm gonna transfer it over to that one and then just slap that oil pan up and put oil in it and then fire it up, I think. So yeah, we'll get to that right now. Okay, so we got the new pan on there. Got it filled up with oil. Yeah, I mean, I checked a couple other things down there. I wanted to make sure that since the crack was all the way up to the block, that it didn't somehow, you know, crack the block, like continue that force on. But like I was talking to a couple of people, it's pretty, like, I think it barely hit the pan because with how weak that material is, based on what everybody else said, it would have shattered and there'd be like the whole bottom half of it missing if it hit it significantly harder. But the pickup tube was untouched, so obviously we know nothing went up that far. And I mean, it's cast. Like if anything moved a decent amount, it would just fall apart. So I think it wasn't a whole lot of force that traveled up to the motor from the pan, so I think we should be good. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it up and see how we at. Little bean egg, one of our tiny chickens. That's full grown. That's how big her eggs are. I think that's in the trailer. Yeah. So I forgot. I got ahead of myself.
Man, it sounds like a weird item.
Yeah, I know. I forgot to put the belt back on because when we took it apart, the radiator was so smashed up against it. We thought because we forgot that all the oil had drained out of the pan. We thought we could just start it up and drive it into the trailer because nothing looked like it was touching. So we were just going to take the belt off and then, you know, run it with no accessories. But then we were like, ah, crap, there's no oil in the motor.
Seems legit.
So, yeah, I forgot to put it back on. I mean, it seems fine, obviously.